Hi everyone, welcome back to this training pathway series. This video is going to be mainly around comparisons of portfolios. When you have a prospect or a client with an existing portfolio and you're trying to suggest they move into something else, how do I use analytics to create something that shows them the reasons why I want them to move across from one thing to the other? Now, analytics, the engine of analytics provides lots of fund research and analysis. We explored that in video 2. Video 3 was all about using analytics as an engine to create really nice reports, maybe as a yearly service to an existing client. But everyone, for want of a better word, is trying to sell a proposition. Maybe that's an in-house proposition. They've got you as an advisor have an in-house range of model portfolios. Maybe you're using an external MPS solution that, again, most of which are plugged into analytics. We can explore a bit of that today as well. But again, what are the areas of the system that I can use to create some content that convinces a client they'd be much better off investing in my proposed solution compared to where they currently are? And maybe that is just a tiny little alteration to the portfolio. Maybe that's just you suggesting a slight change, like one fund, or maybe that is a complete overhaul where you're saying to the client, you would be much better off selling everything you've got over here and buying into this investment solution that we've put together for you over here. So again, if we dive straight in, I've got a couple of portfolios selected already. Obviously, we won't get into detail about how you build portfolios and select portfolios. That was covered off in video 1. So feel free to go back to video 1 if you need a recap. But if I now want to compare a couple of portfolios, proposed versus existing in this case, one of the best ways of doing that is just using charts. There's loads of charts on analytics. Performance line chart is, again, a bit of a default. I can set a time period, either from a specific period or, again, generic 5-year. I don't always have to look at it as a percentage change. It could show my portfolio's done 35%, or it could show it's gone up £45,000, whatever. You can change the base from percent to pound. It's up to you. But the moment you click on generate, this is, again, the quickest and easiest way of comparing a portfolio versus another. Look, Mr. or Mrs. Client, my proposed one's the lime one or green one, and what you have at the moment is the black line. That's one of many reasons we're proposing A versus B. Okay, that's nice and simple. I could look at multiple periods. This is quite a nice little tip. I could do 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. Of course, this doesn't just relate to portfolios. You could do this with fund sectors and indices as well. Just be aware that some of these features are only available to analyze on a portfolio, but the stuff we're starting off here, you could run on anything. It's not just a portfolio. But I want to do 1 year, 3 year, maybe 5 year and 7 year, and click on generate. It's quite nice. So that will show like an assortment of lots of different time periods, not just one that I've kind of cherry picked, the 5-year period. There we go, 1 through 5 and 7. And again, PDF that. I could also look at risk. So this is just looking at performance. What about if I want to look at performance versus risk? Another chart to consider is scatter chart. I could do, again, scatter chart over a particular period, say 5 years, and generate. And it does exactly that. It's still going to focus on performance. It's still going to show, I would expect, my proposed outperforming because it's higher up. So you can see on the performance axis, higher up means it's better performing. But because it's further to the right, it's taking a bit more risk. So yes, again, based on your risk profile, we are going to do a risk profile as part of this series of videos, or the risk profile, I should say. But the proposition we're picking, because the risk profile said X, we're proposing this solution because it's taking a level of risk that's akin to the risk profile that you filled in, and also taking a stellar level of performance compared to what you've currently got. Now, absolutely nothing stopping you adding the other model portfolios of your range. Again, if you have an in-house model portfolio solution and a mandate of 10 model portfolios, why not have all 10 models on that chart? Or if you have 5 external models with Bruin or Owen Dartington or Thesis, why not add all of their models? In fact, why not add the 5 Bruin, the 5 Thesis, and the 5 Rowan Dartington models all on the same chart, so you can see how their mandates compare against each other. As I've said in a past video, there really is no kind of guide or rule book in terms of how you should be using analytics. You've got data, you've got a load of features, create what it is you want to show. But that's a quick and easy way of showing performance versus risk. Also, I did cover this off, I think, in the last video, 2 videos ago, on video 3. But under regular savings withdrawals, it allows you to actually add in some regular savings or withdrawing a certain amount in income. So again, I can mess around with the time periods and add more of them, but I could do a regular withdrawal. So maybe this client's looking at withdrawing a certain amount of income from a pot of 500,000. So I could tell the system this client's got 500,000 and they're regularly going to be taking, let's say, £1,000 a month, and click on generate. I like to call this reverse cash flow. So obviously cash flow is generally forecasting forward. This basically does the same, but reverse it. So I can say, well, look, over the last so many years, had you have been doing this with live real data, we would have started off at 500,000. We would have given you £1,000 a month income. Well, both solutions would have done that, but our solution is still up on where you would have been. So we've actually grown the capital and given you the income. Your solution has given you the income, but it's eaten into that capital, and that's why we're proposing ours to be a slightly better drawdown solution. Incidentally, you don't have to do pounds, you can do percentage as well. So for those advisors that just want to withdraw 4% a year, kind of skim off the 4% every year, you can do that instead. And obviously saving as well. So actually, no, the client I'm talking to is a lot younger. They're looking to regularly put money away. So we'll do that instead. They're going to be putting in £1,000 a month rather than withdrawing it. There's going to be no initial pot to start with, because they're just kind of accumulating that pot. And we could do that in reverse. And it's got pound cost averaging, dollar cost averaging, euro cost averaging, whatever currency you're working with. It's a nice way of just showing that client how, if you invest over a regular period of time and you're hoovering up all these units on different prices, and it really smooths out the return using that strategy, and it will tell you how much you've put in altogether and how much it's worth there at the very bottom in brackets. So there are some nice charts. There are other charts available, of course, and every single one of those charts has a little question mark. And a lot of those charts as well, again, will have their own videos on the YouTube channel, so go and explore that. So that's a good place to start. If I want to compare things, not necessarily just portfolios, go and look at the charts. You can create some really nice content and then kind of stitch that into your own reports, or just PDF that and provide that to the client. Are there any other reports in analytics that kind of do some of this for you and kind of package together? Well, yes. So on the right-hand side, you could also use a little feature called portfolio comparison. This is probably one of the most used features on the system. It's probably the easiest as well. It actually ignores everything you've got on the left-hand side. Now what you've got to do is just select it from the right. So I want to go and select my model portfolio 3. And again, that could be with a DFM provider like Bruin or Vestra Thesis, etc., that I've accessed via that MPS directory over on the left-hand side. Or this could be one of my models, or it could just be a Vanguard Life Strategy fund that I've just put into a portfolio at 100%. It could really be anything you want it to be. That's my proposed portfolio. I'm recommending this current client be much better off moving away from his current arrangement. And I just want analytics to create a report that just put those solutions side by side and try and look at all the differences between them. That's exactly what this report would do. So my proposed on the left, his existing on the right, comparison of charges, comparison of holdings. It will default to the top 5, but if you click on all holdings, it shows everything. There's the performance of the two side by side. There's the volatility between the two, and there's the asset allocation and the regional split between them. Just a mention of this performance, you can actually have the performance net of all your additional charges as well. So if your proposed solution, this model portfolio 3, that's going to include all the fund charges. That's great. So the performance is always in this industry, fortunately, in any fund industry across the planet. The performance is always, there's probably exceptions to that, but every single performance graph you see when it comes to a fund or portfolio is always going to be net of the fund charge. So whatever the funds are charging and taking their cut, that's baked into the performance automatically. Never need to worry about fund charges. Now, clearly there are other charges on that value chain, though. Me, the advisor, and the platform I'm putting it onto potentially as well, or maybe some sort of product fee. There are other charges that we won't know about. We don't know what your charge is. We don't know what platform you've gone and put it on, etc. So if you wanted to bake that into the performance graph, so that performance blue line is just taken down a notch to take into account all those additional charges, just a nice little feature to be aware of is if you go and open up any portfolio, it doesn't really matter which one, there's a little settings tab at the very top here where I can, again, bake in additional charges. I can just pop it in there and say, look, yes, there's an additional charge. I'm the advisor at 0.5% and the platform's at 0.25. So I'm going to put an extra charge of 0.75 in there. Click on save, and whether it's on the existing or proposed doesn't matter. It just means that performance graph is going to be reduced slightly based on that additional compound annual charge. So that comparison report, as I said, is pretty popular. There was a little settings tab on there as well that you can click on. You can kind of mess around with it. So you don't. I'll just quickly show you that. If we just load that back up again. At the very top here, there should be a little hammer and spanner icon there. So again, the default comparison report loads up and you've got these little freeform text box again. But I can click on the settings tab and say, well, actually, for this particular client I'm working on, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. And then apply that to this particular report or save that as your new default, and it will just take away the stuff you don't want to look at. You can actually change some of this as well. So I don't want to show 5 years. I'd rather show 3 or 1 year, or go back as far as it can go. So again, the content itself is relatively dynamic. So you can mess around with what's on show before you PDF it and send that across to a client. Just whilst we're discussing charges, one final thing to consider if you are comparing portfolios are actually just a deep dive on the cost and charges. Okay, I can do all the performance, the volatility, the holdings, the ratings, but one of the core parts of transferring someone from A to B is generally what they're going to be paying, and that's probably more often than not one of the core reasons you are trying to move them away from a legacy solution, because they're paying probably over the odds compared to what you're now proposing with a newer solution. So when you want to do a deep dive on the cost and charges of solutions against one another, there's a little feature over here called reduction in yield calculator. Be warned, the very first time you click on this, pop-up blocker will stop you pretty much 99% of the time. So just always allow, and obviously won't happen again. But it sets up a separate, creates a separate tab on your internet. There is actually a cost and charge ex ante calculator. Again, that's covered off in another video, so I won't do that here. But that's just it just takes one portfolio like my model and just goes and sucks out all of the new MiFID cost and charges, transactional, incidental, and just gives you one aggregated kind of portfolio charge, what the true cost of that portfolio is. So that's in itself quite useful. But because this video is structured around comparisons, that's what reduction in yield calculator is here for. Compare portfolio. This is quite simple. All I've got to do here is just work through this kind of stage by stage. First of all, tell it what portfolios we want to review. So let's just say, look, I'm recommending my model 4. Client is currently in this existing pension. What are the investment details? Again, let's just use £500,000 pot. We've got £500,000 to potentially shift. Again, if you're using an account in a different region, this will automatically shift the currency depending on what region you're in. So if you're using an Irish account or a European account or Australian account, etc., the currency denomination won't always be in pounds. Investment term, let's just project this up over 25 years. Growth account, as in growth rate. I want to make this fair and suggest that both solutions are going to grow at the same rate. I can change that, which we will do in a second, but I'm going to assume both of them can achieve 4% a year moving forward. I want everything else to be equal apart from the charges, because I'm trying to reflect how those difference in charges will impact the performance. It does actually tell you what they have done historically. That's quite neat. I'll come back to that in a second. But if I click on charges, I'm going to make 4 and 4, make the growth rate 4 and 4. What are the charges of these solutions? So analytics knows what the solution cost is, the fund cost. So my model 4 is 041. So let's just whack that in there. Theirs is 133, so I'll put that in there. Doesn't know what our advisor fee is, but that's not a problem because I can just pop it in there. Doesn't know what platform fee is, but again, that's not a problem because I can pop it in there. Maybe they don't have a platform. And we're talking about using a DFM MPS a second ago, so maybe we're using maybe like in Invesco or maybe one of our FE models. We're taking our few bips as well, 0.27. So that's the ultimate cost of our portfolio versus theirs. Now the results tab kind of forecasts that forward and uses all the logic you've already asked of it. And then over the next 25 years, it's simply telling you, look, if your model portfolio grows at 4%, you'll take £500,000 and it will end up on 934, yet your existing portfolio will be 846. And the core reason for the reason for that difference and delta is because your proposed portfolio is only costing that much every year and the existing one is that much. And for things like pension switches in particular, that's how a lot of advisors will be using analytics as a pension switch report, but you can use this on any contract. It doesn't just have to be pensions. Just to go back a couple of stages, just worthwhile pointing out, you can obviously mess around with these growth rates. If I've used analytics to convince myself and the client that our solutions have been much better performing historically, I could say, okay, what does this look like if we whack that up to 5%? What about if we outperform you by just 1% a year, or 0.25% or 0.5%, whatever difference you want? And you can again show, okay, well, clearly charges are incredibly important, but so is performance. And if you can get both of them right, the delta or the difference between those two figures is going to be enormous. It also shows you, how long it will take. If yours is, if there's an initial charge, but potentially you've wrapped in initial charge of X. I forgot to show that on the last screen, but under charges, you could put in initial charge and say, well, look, admittedly, to shift the investments from A to B, it's going to cost £10,000, etc., as a one-off. You do that under pounds, and then under the results tab, when you see it, it will actually show you essentially how many years it would take for there to be parity between the two. And then once you're done, PDF. And you can then attach that or PDF bind them with some of the other reports we've created in that session. The only other chart I'll just quickly show is the bar chart. I've got to show that earlier. So under bar chart, this is quite popular. Line charts are great, scatter charts are great, but they're showing cumulative periods of time. They're showing one period, 5 years, 10 years, 7 years, etc. A bar chart allows you to do discrete data. It allows you to do month by month, year by year, quarter by quarter, etc. And sometimes you're just picking up different time periods, and therefore maybe you can tell a slightly different story. And again, this isn't just on portfolios. If I had a portfolio versus a benchmark, or 5 portfolios against one another, over on the right-hand side, I can tell the system I want a bar chart on a discrete basis. I can actually tell the system I don't want to just look at performance. I want to look at a discrete bar chart showing the volatility year on year. I won't do that here. I'm just going to look at performance. I want to do year-on-year periods, and I want 5 of them. And if you just click on generate, it does exactly that. Whatever you've asked of it on the left-hand side, in my case, just 2 portfolios, it shows me year on year. We're in 2023 at the moment, so we're not in a full year, so it will take us up to the end of 2022. And we can show, again, tells a slightly different story. I can say, well, look, yes, I can show we've outperformed you over 5 years, but it's actually a bit more impressive than that. We outperformed you in 2022 because we fell less. We outperformed you in 2021. Okay, we didn't outperform you in 2020. We outperformed you in 2019, and we outperformed you because we fell less in 2018. So 4 of the last 5 years, we've outperformed that investment solution, both in rising and falling markets. And you could argue that that's more powerful than the line chart, but it's all subjective. It's analytics gives you lots of different features, lots of different tools, lots of different data sets, and it's up to you as the designer and the user of analytics to go on there, take data, take a feature, smash them together, create content, and provide that to the client. Hope you found that useful. As ever, any questions, help desk on the left-hand side, contact us. You've got an account manager who looks after you as well. Feel free to reach out to them. This YouTube channel is full of hopefully useful videos to kind of guide you through the different areas of the system, and also chat with an expert on the bottom right.